Okay guys, we're on the final stretch now guys. This is video 3 of 3 bookish videos that are coming your way. Hopefully the first 2 have already been unleashed on you and you are eagerly awaiting this third one. It is still a hot summer in Wales, it is still a scorching week, but I am here to talk to you about the books that I read in June and July 2019. This is a little wrap-up video for you guys, which I haven't done on its own for a little while. So hopefully I'm not too out of practice and this will all come just fluttering out. It'll all make sense in words and sentences and orders and everything, you know? So welcome back to my channel and thank you for coming along guys. If you like this sort of bookish chat type video, head on over and hit subscribe and you will get new videos every Tuesday and Friday when normal service actually resumes. Right now we are not in normal service. I should say, disclaimer, that I'm moving house at the moment, so normal videos and recordings aren't happening, but they're coming, they'll be there, they'll get there. I'm not going to leave you missing out on what's going on and what's happening in my bookish life. But for this video, let's just talk about the books that I read in June and July. The first book was Monsters of Men by Patrick Ness. This is book 3 in the Chaos Walking trilogy, the end of the trilogy. And I have to say, as far as endings of trilogies go, this was gripping. It really was. So it's about New Prenticetown. Is that what they're calling it? Because it's not really, but it is. It's New Prenticetown. It's a town on this faraway world where, if you live there, men can hear each other's thoughts and feelings and fears, and it's all kind of, they call it noise because it isn't a coherent sentences, and it's not like watching me speak to you guys and listen to me talking and all these lovely coherent sentences. It's actually a rambly, chaotic, yeah, it's just like watching me talk to you guys about these books. It's just a mental noise. They call it noise, and if you're a man, you can hear it. If you're a woman, you can hear the noise, but you don't have noise, so your thoughts aren't projected into the minds of others, which is a very, very, very interesting concept. Anyway, at the end of book 2, we found our hero and heroine, Todd and Viola. They were being surrounded by 3 different armies, and it looked like war was about to erupt. And this book really is a book about war. There is a massive, massive battle right at the beginning of this book, and it is brutal and chaotic and just very, very well written. And then it kind of spans out to the battle has to stop, and they form a sort of truce for a moment. And during that moment, there has to be discussions about how everyone is going to live on this world together, because they all have to live there. There's not a choice. There is the imminent arrival as well of a new ship of humans, a vast ship of humans, more settlers on their way, and that's the kind of the ticking time bomb, because the indigenous species, the spackle, are really, really worried about these people coming, as is the mayor of Prenticetown, because he has got to mayor using some very dubious means, and he's a very dubious character. Normally I love a dubious character. I'm all about that moral grey area. However, the mayor in this book isn't a character that I love, in terms of sometimes I relish reading those people who are saying one thing but mean another. But because I was so enamoured with Todd and Viola and other characters around them, and I really did feel like I was on their side, the mayor to me always felt like an enemy, and I think he was always written like that. He's written in the eyes of Todd and Viola, and so he is supposed to be the enemy, and he comes across like that. But he is a very complex character, and he's not just evil. But having said that, I know how this ends, so I'm not going to, no spoilers. Really, really, really good book. Loved the fact that Todd and Viola were kept separate for so long in it. It really created an interesting dramatic element. And then as Todd was learning, Todd learns in this book, this isn't really a spoiler, but Todd learns in this book, and he was learning from the last book really, how to suppress his noise. And then Viola can't hear him, and then Viola feels like he's hiding from her. But he doesn't feel like that, because he's still thinking all the same thoughts, so he doesn't understand why she's thinking like that. And that separation is a really, really interesting adult sort of conflict that they go through as a kind of a couple. They're kind of a couple. There's certainly if they aren't a couple, they certainly have love for each other, and this separation does nothing for that, and it's really interesting. And then there's a cast of like other characters around them which you really like and feel for, and I can't remember her name now. Not Madam, what's her name? I always get it confused with Coin from the Hunger Games. I can't remember, it was, what was her name? She's the head mistress. She's not a madam, she's a mistress, and she leads the Answer, and they are the rival, I suppose. They are kind of terrorists, which is as horrific as it is, but this is a big massive war novel, and it's just oh my god, at those moments where you're meant to feel cramped, you feel cramped, and that kind of claustrophobic of battles and fights and that helplessness, you feel it, you are right there. And Patrick Ness has done some wonderful writing in here. You feel for all the characters you're supposed to feel for, and yet, oh my gosh, it kept on surprising me. And I think when I am feeling how a writer wants me to feel about a character, sometimes I get blinded by that, and I'm not trying to work out what happens next in the plot. And I think that's what, to me, that's what makes Patrick Ness a really good writer, because I'm quite good at thinking, oh, but he's saying that there because this is going to mean something later, or this has some other bearing on something else later on. Whereas Patrick Ness had me feeling all the feels, therefore I was blinded to what was coming next, and I like that. I liked being surprised. And it ends. That ending, I mean, I'm not going to spoil it for you guys, but that ending was brutal, and I should have known after Manchi. That's all I'm saying. I should have known. But this one was brutal, and I love that it ended with a sort of, could be seen as a cliffhanger, but sort of isn't a cliffhanger, and I really, really, really like that too. It's grown up, it's really, really grown up for YA, and I think that everyone needs to read this, especially before the films come out. I'm praying they make all three, but I just loved it, and it was a 5-star read from me on my Goodreads, 100%. And then I went, the reason behind reading this book, which looks black and nothing, this is Career of Evil by Robert Galbraith. We all know this is J.K. Rowling's pseudonym. I read this next because I really enjoyed the first two. I read them in quite quick succession at the end of last year, and I've been waiting to get around to this when I've been in the mood, and I really, really wanted to read the fourth one, which is Lethal White, but I know that I've seen the TV show of this, and I wondered whether I could just get away with reading Lethal White without reading this. And I suppose in a way you could, but in also a way you can't, because what Robert Galbraith does, J.K. Rowling does really, really well in these novels is the human relationships. Yes, there is crime, and it's not like reading a police thriller, because he's a private detective, is Cormoran Strike. He doesn't have access to all the things that the police do, but he can also bend some rules then to get stuff that he needs to know. So that's always quite interesting. It's a bit grimier because it's not police. And this novel has a serial killer in it. And the serial killer in this book is genuinely very creepy, because there are passages written from the serial killer's perspective, and that genuinely, some of them were really, really frightening. There's a part, this isn't a spoiler, but there's a part where he is just thirsty to kill somebody. He wants a girl to kill. He does, this is what he does. And he is walking around London hunting for that girl who just gets separated from her friends, or misses the tube, or she's just walking past the wrong alley at the wrong time. He has nothing to do with her, but he wants to kill her. And that I found so dark and creepy, and I had the odd nightmare about it because it really got in my head. And I think because, as well, as going back to what J.K. Rowling does really well, the relationships between Strike and Robin, it's very real. I genuinely believe it, and I like them both, and for them to be caught up in this world with these people who just kill because they want to, that was quite frightening, and I didn't want something bad to happen to either of them. And even though I've seen the TV show and I know how it ended, I was still worried for them, which I suppose shows how good a book this is. I will say that a couple of things though, there are three kind of main suspects in this novel. basically it starts with Robin being delivered a severed leg. And if you know anything about the Strike novels, you'll know that Strike is actually a veteran and he has had his leg amputated. And so it was a direct kind of threat to Strike through Robin. And throughout this book then the serial killer tries to get at Strike through Robin. And Robin is lush. We love Robin. I know no one who doesn't like Robin. If you don't like Robin, I don't want to know you, okay? And so it's a really personal story, and they are pulled into this rather than detecting other people's personal stories. Their personal story is this book, and it's grim in some bits, it's horrible, and you worry for them, and it's gross, and the serial killer is horrible, and Robin and Strike's relationship gets stronger and stronger, and then a bit weaker, and then stronger and weaker, and it's just, oh, it's toing and froing, and it's just, oh, I read it so fast. It's a 5-star read from me as well. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And like I said, I know if you like a crime thriller, you will enjoy it, but it is different to reading something like Stone Cold Heart or a Joe Nesbo book, because they aren't the same as a police detective. And then I finally got to read Lethal White by Robert Galbraith, which is the fourth novel in the Strike series. And I mean, look at this beast. It's flipping huge. It's like 650 pages long, and I devoured them, and I read this so quickly considering it's such a long book. In the middle, I was like, oh my god, I'm only halfway through. Am I going to do this? Am I going to get through this? But not in a bad way. I didn't want it to end, but I just thought, oh, a lot has happened. And I really liked it because this is not a book about a serial killer like the third one. This is completely different. This is Robin has to go undercover in this one in the Houses of Parliament, because there is a politician there who is getting blackmailed, and so Strike gets employed by the politician, and Robin has to go in undercover to learn all she can about the potential blackmailers, and it just spirals from there. The story just literally, I think the best word for it is spirals. It just goes round and round, all these different people, all these different situations, and then halfway through the book there's a murder, and the murder changes the whole book, and then the rest of the book is about discovering the murderer. And it's almost like reading two books in a way, but with the same cast, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. I did not know where this book was going, and I think that's important to say with all of these Cormoran Strike books. I haven't got a clue what's going to happen next. I'm not ever trying to guess who done it really in these, because what I've learned is I'm relishing reading about Robin and Strike's relationship. Like that is the cornerstone of this book, and these books in general. Just their relationship is so unique, and you want to learn more about them, and you want them to do what you want them to do, you know. It's just fascinating. They are what's driving these books for me. And readers who haven't read this yet, who have read the first three, you will be happy to know that it does open with the wedding. The wedding, you know what I'm talking about. There's a rather large bit at the start of this book, which is the wedding, and then it goes into the political story, and you know, completely different to the last one, and so good. I really enjoyed it. I'm not sure I enjoyed it as much as Career of Evil, because it wasn't as personal a story, and it wasn't as kind of in a way gruesome and dark. This has got darkness in it, but not dark like murders, and from the murderer's perspective. That this book doesn't have that. Different story, just as good. I cannot believe I have to wait until Lord knows when for the next Cormoran Strike novel. I don't know when. I'm glad that in the meantime we have the BBC adaptation of this book. I believe it's being done in 4 parts, which is good because this book is massive, as I said, but can't wait for it, and I really enjoyed this. And if anybody is looking for a thriller to read, I would recommend these novels. The first two, that's The Cuckoo's Calling and The Silkworm, they're okay. But for some reason, Career of Evil and Lethal White both just spoke to me, and I loved my experience reading them both. I just loved it. I loved it. Very different, political, but very different. So those are the books, guys, that I read in June and July. I'm not going to talk about what I'm currently reading, because I've actually spoken about that in my book haul. and in my Everything Bookish video. So I'm not going to bombard you with all the same information, but you guys can look at that. I'll link below and above so you get to see all of what's happening right now. But those are the books that I have read in June and July, read and finished reading, and loved them. And I've actually loved talking about them to people again. That's something that, this is what booktube is for, isn't it? It's about sharing these books that we read together. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. If you have read them, let me know. If you agree or disagree with what I said, let me know. All my socials are below. Give me a shout. And thank you for watching this video. And if you like it, as I said, give it a thumbs up and head on over to my channel and hit subscribe. And we'll talk about more books together. Not just books, but mostly books. Thanks guys, speak to you soon. Bye.